On today's American Football Stories episode, we'll look ahead to this weekend's games and give our gambling advice for select college games and each of the Week 2 NFL games. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today.
What time is it? Game time! It's gonna be special. They're gonna talk about this forever.
Welcome to American Football Stories.
Puts his head down, crashes and spins, and dives. Touchdown!
Bringing together the many perspectives that make up college football in the NFL.
Football is one of the greatest sports ever invented.
From players and coaches.
Believe, baby, believe, baby.
Hey, we playing to win right here, fellas.
To the front office and scouts.
The public is finally beginning to catch up, but they don't even know half the truth.
Us against the world, let's get it.
Your hosts, Robert Parker and Nick Knudsen, bring you American Football Stories.
Welcome to the American Football Stories podcast brought to you by Coach Paint. Today is September 16th, 2020. I'm joined by Robert Parker, and I'm Nick Knudsen. You ready to go, Rob?
Ready to go, Nick. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Let's jump into it. We're going to go in the college football schedule first. Another week of no SEC football. The Big Ten did announce they're returning at the end of October. We'll do another episode on that, but just briefly, Big Ten football, it's back.
It's finally back, Nick, and I'm definitely excited. We're going to have a lot of conversations moving forward in regards to that, but one of my things is I'm very excited to see the Big Ten conference back.
Yeah, end of October. Looks like it's going to be a 9-week season with the title game middle of December. So hoping that works out with the playoffs. I'm sure it will. I'm sure that's why they're doing it on that timeline. But great to have those schools playing football again. We're going to start with Friday night. We go in order. So what we do on the picks here is we go in order. And we will start with, we'll go by each time slot. So Friday night, Campbell at Coastal Carolina. Jump to Saturday. No Thursday night game college football this week. It got a good Thursday NFL matchup, which we'll get to. We'll jump to the NFL picks after this. I'll put the timestamps in for the NFL for those of you who aren't college football fans. But for Thursday night, no college football game. Friday, the Campbells play at Coastal Carolina, 7:30 on ESPN. On Saturday, the noon games kick off with Tulsa at Oklahoma State, Austin Peay at Cincinnati. The Louisiana Raging Cajuns, fresh off an upset of Iowa State, go to Atlanta to play Georgia State on ESPN2. Right, with the first game we're going to break down today, Syracuse at Pitt at noon on the ACC network. The Orange are 0-1 after dropping an opener 31-6 at North Carolina, but the score doesn't quite tell us how the game went. It was a pretty close game, middle of the third quarter. Syracuse was competitive in this game before the wheels fell off. And Pitt comes into this one 1-0 after beating FCS Austin Peay 55-0 in the opener. Pittsburgh is a 21.5-point favorite. They are minus 1,900 on the money line, and the over-under is set at 50. So, Rob, which version of Syracuse is the real Syracuse? Is it the one that hung with North Carolina for 3.5 quarters? Or is it the one where the wheels fell off? Basically, do the Orange do they have the defense to hang around in this one?
I think they do, Nick, but I think more so Syracuse is the Syracuse where we saw the wheels fall off. I think the reason why they stuck around so close to that North Carolina Tar Heels is because of the game that Sam Howell played. So I think Pittsburgh is going to win this one. I would definitely take Pittsburgh on the money line. Once again, two of the top Syracuse running backs opted out for the season, even though you know how much I love Dino Babers as a coach. But I just think they have no depth coming into a COVID year season. And I think Pittsburgh has the upper edge. And they played really well against their first game with Austin Peay. I mean, granted, it's a lesser opponent, but we've seen what the Sun Belt has done, this past week. So I definitely favor Pittsburgh in this game, Nick.
Yeah, Austin Peay coming in from the FCS, I believe, but they They played well against Central Arkansas that opening game, which we saw on that first Saturday of college football, the week 0 game a few weeks back. I think Pitt is capable of winning big in this game, but I have trouble trusting a Pat Narduzzi offense to cover a 3+ touchdown point spread. So I think I'd like Hughes to cover the 21.5. Am I crazy on that?
Not too crazy, but once again, in that first game against Austin P, Nick, Pitt rushed for 6 touchdowns in that contest. And one thing that really much killed that Syracuse close game was that they gave up, a couple rushing touchdowns in the second half. So I think if Pitt can pound the ball, and I don't think Syracuse can, stand up against that Pitt rushing attack. And I think Syracuse, they win the game. They win outright.
Yeah, Pitt wins outright, but you feel good about 21.5?
I really do. I think that
Oh,
Syracuse
okay.
team, once again, I just don't think they have the depth to keep up this year, especially with a lot of their players opting out for the season. And if they can't run the ball and kind of eat up clock, and they keep that defense on the field against Pitt, I think Pitt covers that 3 touchdown, and Pitt definitely get the win.
I only need Syracuse to score 2 touchdowns in this game. I feel like they cover the spread. So I'm gonna go with Syracuse. I'm gonna give them the credit. 3.5 quarters of good play. I'm not gonna forget. Well, I'm not gonna go. Maybe we don't say good. The offense wasn't pretty, but the Pittsburgh defense definitely tough. But I think they could sneak 1 touchdown in and then maybe have another solid drive. 21.5 points. A lot of points for Pittsburgh. Don't trust them with it. I'm gonna go Syracuse 21.5. Robert, you got Pitt on the money line. We'll
Oh
move.
yeah.
We'll move on. Liberty at Western Kentucky is also at noon. Another noon game. Navy at Tulane. Navy ugly game 1 against BYU. Yeah, Robert, they only had 119 total yards rushing. Navy had 119 total yards on the ground while surrendering 580 total yards, 300 rushing to BYU in the opener. Very un-Navy like. I suspect this gets fixed, though. Ken Niumatalelo, good coach, steady program at Navy. They kind of talked about they weren't hitting in practice due to COVID, but I just think he's too good to let this go on. It just seemed like the lack of the preseason really hurt the midshipmen, and I'm not saying that everyone else didn't have the same issue, whatever, but it just seemed to hurt them in particular. But you look at Tulane, they had a rough 2.5 quarters to open with South Alabama, who's not exactly a world beater, but they end up come back, finishing strong. Good win for the Green Wave to go to 1-0. Navy and Tulane, the last couple of years, the 2 meetings have been decided by 4 total points. So I have to believe Navy bounces back in this one, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They've scored 41-28 the last 2 years against the Green Wave. I really like Tulane. I really like Willie Fritz in general, their head coach, Willie Fritz. But I like Navy in the points better in this one, man. That Navy's getting 7 points, and they're plus 215 on the money line, and the over-under's at 48.5. I think this might be a parlay on this one. I think I like Navy at plus 7 and the over, 48.5.
Yeah, I definitely have to disagree with that, Nick. On this one, I'm going to ride the Green Wave. Just like you said earlier, you talked about the Navy head coach saying that the team didn't engage in live tackling during practices out of the coronavirus fears. So the offseason preparation is not necessarily the preparation that we will see it from a Navy team. And I like the comeback victory that Tulane had over South Alabama, and I think they just have that momentum, and they're more so of they're a balanced attack. They're going to run the ball and they're going to throw the ball, and I like Tulane to cover, Nick.
Ooh.
I just think Navy just the all-season preparation of Navy is not gonna hit their stride in probably to the 3 or the 4th game of the season, and by that time it's probably going to be too late. But I do think they bounce back and they keep it close. But I'm definitely going to go with Tulane on this one to cover.
Tulane to cover. You got to like that over, though. 48.5. Why is that so low? They just been a high-scoring matchup the last couple of years.
Yeah, that is pretty low. I do like that over, but once again, Navy likes to move the ball using the triple option. So do they eat up the clock to kind of grind out the win, or is it going to be a shootout? So with that being said, and the tackling that Navy displayed against BYU, I like that over.
All right, good. So you parlaying that? You got Tulane -7 in the over?
Yeah,
All right.
that would be a great parlay with Tulane and the over. I'm definitely going to ride the green wave on this one.
All right. So we both like the over at 48.5. I like Navy at +7. Rob likes Tulane to cover at -7. Let's move on to the ACC. Boston College at Duke, 12 p.m. ESPN 3. Boston College season opener for the Eagles in their debut under new head coach Jeff Hafley, who served at Ohio State as defensive coordinator in 2019. Before his time in Columbus, Hafley spent 7 years as a secondary coach in the NFL with stops in Tampa Bay, Cleveland, and San Francisco. He made the jump to the NFL with Greg Schiano after spending 1 year at Rutgers in 2011. The New Jersey native has plenty of familiarity with the Northeast. I think that's good for the Eagles. I think he eventually gets them over that 7-win hump they couldn't cross in 5 of Steve Adazio's 7 seasons up in Boston. The Eagles will probably come together on the defensive side of the ball this year, Rob, but as the season progresses, like I don't see it. I don't know if it happens right away. I think it's going to take a moment. They're going to need the season to progress a bit, but I think it's going to take a little time for them to gel. I'm expecting, based on what I'm seeing on the depth chart and some research I did, quarterback Phil Yurkovich, I believe is how you pronounce that, Yurkovich, a Notre Dame transfer, is going to start. Duke comes in this game 0-1, and they end up losing by 2 TDs at Notre Dame. But they made the Irish sweat deep into the second half. It wasn't – I think the score isn't as close as the game actually played. David Cutcliffe and Clemson grad transfer Chase Bryce didn't find the end zone until late in the third quarter. But the talent in year one of a new regime at BC is a bit different than what they saw at Notre Dame. I think Duke should move the ball more effectively this week. You got Duke coming in as a 6-point favorite, -220 on the money line. Over-under is sitting at 52 even. Rob, I want to hear your thoughts on this one first before I give mine.
Yeah, Nick. I think the one advantage that Boston College has coming into this game is that, it's really no film out there for Duke to kind of prepare for. Duke doesn't know what kind of offense they're going to run, doesn't know, the quarterback as much as, normally you would know throughout the year watching film of different teams. So I like Duke in this one. And the reason why is because, of course, they did play Notre Dame pretty tough. Chase Bryce, the transfer, he did look pretty impressive in the opener. 20 for 37 for 259 yards, 20 yards on the ground and a touchdown. I think they can, rip off the win, and I look for them to cover. Because I think Boston College is going to come out, sloppy, not playing a game, and then Duke having a game underneath their belt. So I like Duke in this one with the spread, Nick.
Duke at -6. I like Duke, but here's my problem. I worry about Boston College offense and what we don't know about it. So I think Duke is going to get at least into the mid-20s, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about this Boston College offense one way or another. 52 seems like a high total to me. I don't think they do it. I don't think this game gets to 52. I'm going to take the under just because I'm going to stay away from picking it one way or another. You would think, based on what you saw last week, I feel pretty good about Duke, but to me, I just want to see Boston College. If I could see them at least one time, I would have more of an opinion on that game. But I do think that it's going to be a low-scoring defensive game, somewhere in the neighborhood of something like, I don't know, like 24-10 or 24-17. So give me the under at 52 in that game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Nick. I definitely like the under. Once again, this is Boston College's first game of the season. Definitely gonna be take a time to work out the kinks with that offense and with the quarterback position. I think Duke defense held up pretty good against Ian Book and Notre Dame last week. So I think this is definitely going towards the under. But once again, I definitely like Duke on the spread to cover.
All right, let's move down to Texas. Houston picks up a game with Baylor. Don't quote me on this. I believe this game was just scheduled kind of like Sandlot football. They had a game available this weekend. Baylor just picked it up. Am I wrong on that? Houston was supposed to play Memphis, right? And then Memphis had the coronavirus outbreak because they had that party bus.
Correct.
Yeah. So Baylor playing host to Daniel Holgerson and the Cougars, year 2 of the Holgerson era. Got to ask if he's going to bounce back this year. It seemed like a lot of turmoil last year. Kind of a surprise with De'Aaron King sitting out the last part of the season. They only played a few games and then sat out and transferred to Miami. Kind of a weird year in Houston. Felt like maybe Holgerson really was working his way in. It's going to be a little bit of a rebuild. But quarterback Clayton Tune, he put up some good numbers in 7 games last year. Also was inclined to throw interceptions here and there. He had interceptions in 4 of the 7 games he appeared in, including 2 games with 4 picks and 3 picks individually. So I'll give him a break because he was thrown in the fire a bit with the departure of De'Aaron King. Regardless of what the roster looks like, though, we know Dana Holgerson. His teams put up points, and they're going to give up quite a few on defense too. So not quite the MO over on the other sideline. Dave Aranda comes over to Waco to take over for Matt Rule after a stint at LSU as a defensive coordinator. One of the many departures from Baton Rouge in the offseason. Love the hire for Baylor. I think that he's going to be a good fit. I think Matt Rule left the roster pretty loaded. Charlie Brewer returns back. This Bears team, they pushed Oklahoma a couple times last season, almost won the Big 12, ended up riding a stout defense and an opportunistic offense to the Sugar Bowl, though. Baylor, -4.5, moneyline -190. The total is 63 points. On the surface, it seems like Baylor won't miss a beat to me, Rob, unless I'm misreading something.
Well, I mean, they are missing their 2 top receivers from last year. One of those
That's
guys
true.
is Denzel Mims, who moved on to the NFL to play with the Jets. But once again, I think we're focusing on the offense. I think one thing that we have to do, Nick, is focus on the defense. Baylor's defense was terrific last season, but they're only returning 2 starters from a unit that had the best scoring defense in the Big 12 last year. So I think that defense is going to take a hit. And just like you said, we do know Dana Holgerson. We do know his air raid system, and we do know that he can put up points. So from a betting perspective, I'm leaning towards the over on this one. It's right now at 62.5, 63. I think Charlie Brewer is a capable quarterback, but one thing that we know about Charlie Brewer is can he, stand in the pocket and be durable for a season, especially with all the concussions that he had over, his years at Baylor. So I think that's one thing that we have to look at. But one line that I'm looking at is definitely the over on this one, Nick.
Yeah, on the surface, I do agree with that. But it's a lot of points, man. It's a lot of points. So it's just like I think I'm not going to touch that one. This could be a game where I could see this going either way. If Houston got right in the offseason, they could be a dangerous team. This is a program we've seen them play with Power 5 teams with no issue in the past. I definitely think that Houston is capable of playing with Baylor, but I don't know what they are yet. So it's like I just like Baylor's got some changes coming in. I do think that defense is still going to be very solid under Dave Aranda. I think the offense is going to be good enough. I think they're going to make plenty of plays. And Baylor put up points at times last year too. So it's not like it was just like a game. Charlie Brewer's not just a game manager. He definitely can't put up points. But I don't know exactly. I don't have a good feel for this matchup. Like Houston is a team that I think there's a wild variation of what they could be. So I kind of want to stay off of like the spread and the total points wise, but I do feel good that Baylor's going to win the game overall. So give me the Bears on the money line. So that was a long-winded way of saying Baylor. I like Baylor to win. I'm just not sure how the game's going to look exactly.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this before in regards to the Navy BYU game early in the pod in regards to the coach at Navy saying, hey, we really didn't tackle like that in the off season due to COVID 19 or whatever. So I think tackling is going to be a big issue this year in college football, and it's so hard to tackle in open space. And I think with Dana Holgorsen in that air raid offense, he's going to get those guys the ball in open space. So that Baylor defense might, have a hard time tackling those guys in open space, and vice versa. Same thing with Houston with Baylor's offense. So I think that pushes the over up for me, and I tend to go with that just based on that, Nick.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I just I don't have the confidence. I don't have the confidence you do in that. So we're like you're taking the over at 63. I'm just gonna be conservative, go Baylor money line on that. So I definitely see your logic on that. I definitely see the logic, and it's the Dana Holgerson team too. So definitely see the logic. USF, South Florida Bulls going up to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's Notre Dame's back to being they're back to playing non-conference football, Robert. That's something different in 2020. USF opened the Jeff Scott era with the 27-6 win over Citadel. Expectations are fairly low in Tampa, but I think the former Clemson offensive coordinator he's got a rebuild on his hands here, but he seems capable. I mean, he seems like a great hire, and I really expect the Bulls to be a contender in the American within the next 2 to 3 years. You look at USF and UCF, and I think we could do an entire episode on this, just talking about the two programs and comparing the different routes they're taking. But I know this, like, Notre Dame fans are probably like, oh, South Florida, what is that, like the fifth best school at football in Florida? Like they might like look at it and think that, but these schools in Florida, they're not scared to go play the big boys. Like I think they feel at home going to play this game. I'm telling you, USF, they'll be ready to play this game. They might not have the talent right now though, but you just look at what they did in the last couple of off seasons here. While UCF, their rivals down the road in Orlando, they spent the last couple of off seasons insisting on home and home deals with Power 5 opponents. USF did the opposite. They went out and they scheduled 2-for-1 deals, and they got so many games coming up in the next few years with great schools: Florida, Texas, Alabama, Miami. They'll go there twice. They come back to Tampa once. But they simultaneously managed to book home and homes with Boise State and NC State. This type of aggressive scheduling sends a clear message to me that USF intends to compete at a high level over the next few years. Notre Dame, they took care of business last week against the Dukies in South Bend. We alluded to that a little bit earlier. First win as a conference member, so good for Notre Dame, but they get back to the more familiar non-conference territory. They're going to be favored by 26 points against the Bulls. Over-under sitting at 50.5. Ian Book in the Notre Dame offense started slow last week. Any real concerns, Rob?
For Notre Dame, yes. I mean, if we look at that, the USF team, they were 4-0 last year when running for 200 yards or more. And with that being said, they want to run the ball against Notre Dame, and I know Notre Dame had a defensive front that stuffed Duke for 73 rushing yards. But once again, they really didn't get a lot from Chase Bryce early in the game. I think USF is going to spread it out a little bit more than what Duke did, which is going to open up some running lanes. So I think Notre Dame might struggle with this USF running game, and that poses concerns for me. But I do think Notre Dame bounces back and have a clear cut victory against USF. So once again, I definitely like Notre Dame on the money line, and I like the over too, because I think Notre Dame might put up some points this week with Ian Book getting back in rhythm and everything.
So Bovada actually doesn't even offer a money line on this game. It's only 26. It's only Notre Dame minus 26, and then the over-under at 50.5. To me, 26 just seems like a lot of points. So I'm very tempted to take USF here. I think my heart wants to, but my brain's telling me to go with the Irish on that. But it's the same logic I used with Syracuse. You find the end zone 2 times if you're South Florida. That 26-point spread is probably going to get covered unless you see the Irish exceeding 40. I'm really torn here. But I'm with you. I think I'm going to lay off of the line and just go with the over at 50 and a half.
Yeah, I mean, once again, you're right. I mean, it could be a backdoor cover on USF side. Scoring a late touchdown. That's why I like the over. I can see Notre Dame scoring anywhere from 38 to 42 points, and that over is hitting.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go that route. I'm going to join you on that, not to make it boring for everyone, but I agree. I think 26, just a lot of points. Definitely capable of covering it. Just need to see a little more from that offense last week to get me excited about a 26-point spread. Three o'clock games. That's a 2:30 game, by the way, that Notre Dame South Florida game. Let's get in the 3 o'clock hour. You got Stephen F. Austin at UTSA San Antonio. Charlotte played Appalachian State tough at North Carolina at 3:30 ESPN3. Appalachian State at Marshall, 3:30 ESPN3. We were originally going to talk to these games, but we're running a little tight on time, so we're going to move forward here. FAU at Georgia Southern, 3:30 ESPN3. And to me, this is one of the biggest showdowns on Saturday. UCF at Georgia Tech, 3:30 ABC. Can the Knights do what Florida State could not do last week? That's going to be a big conversation piece in the state of Florida if UCF goes up there and wrecks Georgia Tech. I like UCF in this one, Rob, but it's hard to ignore the fact that the Knights have 10 players off their roster right now. 10 players decided to opt out before the season, including projected starters corner Tay Gowan and defensive tackle Kalea Davis. UCF has proven time and again its frontline players are very effective against Power 5 talent, but will the lack of depth haunt the Knights? That's my big question here. I wish we had one sample to review before having to make this pick, but let's see what I guess we're going to see what it is. I love what on the other side, I love what Jeff Collins is building in Atlanta. Georgia Tech was scrappy at times last year. They had some real ugly games too, but they were scrappy. Opening 2020 with a win at Florida State showed they shouldn't be overlooked this season. They have plenty of room to grow, and they made plays when needed last week. The competition on the offensive side of the ball is going to get tougher this week. Georgia Tech is a 7.5-point underdog, plus 225 on the money line, over under at 60. UCF minus 275 on the money line, by the way. I have little doubt that UCF's going to rack up points in this one. But can true freshman quarterback, Georgia Tech quarterback Jeff Sims keep up, Rob?
I don't think he can, Nick. And I know on these, gambling segments that we have, and we want to, reach out to our audience. And I think one thing that you have to look at is trends. So we look at Georgia Tech, and they've been 0-5 against ranked opponents. Of course, that being said, 4 of the 5 games have come against the likes of Clemson and Georgia. I'm not saying UCF is Clemson and Georgia, but they're damn sure is a good program. And I just think they just have the continuity to overcome, the upset that Georgia Tech had over Florida State last week. And one line that I'm really looking at is the over and under. Last season, only 3 of Georgia Tech's 9 games had totals over 60 points. So I'm leaning towards the under in this game, but I do think UCF puts up points, but I just don't think Georgia Tech can put up enough points to keep up.
I feel the exact same way. I think that Georgia Tech benefited from a struggling Florida State offense, particularly that offensive line. I think UCF, they're going to have more answers on the offensive side of the ball. I think they cover the 7.5 relatively easily. I'm going to go Knights minus 7.5.
Yeah, let's not forget that Florida State did kind of, shoot themselves in the foot. They had a they had an interception that could have been a pick 6 that was dropped. They missed a couple opportunities on the offense side of the ball. I just don't see UCF shooting themselves in the foot like Florida State did last week, Nick.
Yeah. So you taking the Knights at minus 7.5 or just money line?
I like the Knights to cover, but I also like the under. So we might see a parlay with UCF with the spread in the under.
Okay, so we got parlay. And the under at 60. All right. Let's move on to the 4 o'clock hour. The Citadel at Clemson on the ACC Network. Troy at Middle Tennessee State on ESPN2. Moving forward to 6 o'clock, CBS Sports Networks, SMU at North Texas. And your college game day location, Louisville, hosting the Miami Hurricanes. Miami, D'Eriq King made a few big plays, but we saw a little bit of struggle against UAB. But I think you could walk away being more encouraged with some of the positives you saw in that game. UAB certainly no pushover. I definitely think Miami's got something to walk away holding they should feel good about that game. They shouldn't feel too bad about that one. But Louisville is going to be a different challenge. And both teams, surprisingly, last year, it was a pretty high-octane game, 52-27. That Miami just smacked Louisville last year. I got to think Louisville is going to be zoned in for this one after getting beat down like that. Cardinals were good, not great against Western Kentucky, but Malik Cunningham did throw for 343 yards and 3 touchdowns. Much tougher test on Saturday night against the Canes. Year 2 for both coaches. Scott Satterfield exceeded expectations in year 1. Manny Diaz knows there's never tempered expectations in Miami. But I want to build this game up a bit, but the Hurricanes, the next couple weeks, they got Florida State and they go to Clemson after a bye week. So it's hard to get circle this game and say it's super critical for Miami because those are probably a little more critical. But I guess every game matters to an extreme degree when you're playing a shortened season. Miami's a 2.5-point dog in this game. Louisville minus 135 money line, over under at 65. I'm hoping for a track meet in this one. Vegas seems to agree with that based on the total being set at 65. But do you like it enough do you like this game enough to play the total? Because I don't have a strong lean one way or another in Miami or Louisville, so I'm trying to talk myself into a track meet so I can bet the total.
Yeah, this game is a toss-up for me, if you ask me, Nick. And the reason why I say that is because, D'Eriq King, the Miami offense really didn't open it up like you expect. Like you saw D'Eriq King at Houston. They did most of their damage on the ground. They rumbled the UAB defense for 337 yards and 3 touchdowns in that 31-14 win we saw. I think Louisville puts up a little more resistance towards the running game, so I think D'Eriq King is going to have to open it up and throw the ball a little bit more, and it could turn into a track meet. So I'm kind of hesitant of taking the spread or the money line with Miami and Louisville. But I think one thing that might hit on the betting line is the over. I can see anywhere from a 34-30 game, 34-33 game. And that total is going to hit. So hopefully we can see Cunningham versus D'Eriq King, and maybe that would be one of the best quarterback matchups that we see this year.
So you're taking the over at 65?
I'm gonna go with the over. I'm gonna go with the over, Nick. I really think this is gonna be a track meet. You have 2 dynamic quarterbacks that can win with their legs and their arm. So let's see both offense open it up, and let's see the defense make tackles in open space. So I'm definitely gonna lean towards the over on this one.
I agree that could happen, but 65 is just so many points. Give me the under. Because I don't have a feel on who's going to win this one. I could see this going either way. I'll take the under at 65. Literally just to be different than you, Rob.
That's fair.
All right, so we're going to wrap up college football Saturday night with Louisiana Tech at Southern Miss at 7:30, Texas State at Louisiana Monroe at 7:30, Wake Forest at NC State 8 p.m. Abilene Christian travels to El Paso to play UTEP at 9 p.m. That's it for college football Saturday. Any final thoughts on college games, Rob?
I think one game that jump out to me is that Boston College Duke matchup. I really just want to see what Boston College do. We know A.J. Dillon is not in that backfield anymore. So I just want to see how is Boston College going to win games this year, whether it's going to be through the air or on the ground. So I'm definitely excited to see that Boston College Duke matchup.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how USF looks at Notre Dame and UCF and Georgia Tech. Definitely looking forward to seeing if Georgia Tech's what they're like this year, because I think that's a real test for the Jackets. So looking forward to both of those games. All right, we're going to move on to the NFL after this quick break. Welcome to the NFL segment of the American Football Stories podcast, where we'll pick each and every NFL game. But first, we want to remind you that American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game today with Coach Paint. Rob, Thursday night, can't wait for this game. Cincinnati at Cleveland. Both teams coming to the game 0-1. Both QBs did not cross the 200-yard mark in their openers, but reviews around Bengals rookie and Joe Burrow and Browns third-year starter Baker Mayfield could not be more different. Very positive around Burrow, pretty tough on Baker. Burrow had the Bengals in position to take the Chargers to overtime, a team that many people feel like is going to be in the playoff hunt with LA. The Browns, on the other hand, laid a big ol' egg against the Ravens. I like what Cincy did, but something tells me the Browns are going to be up for this one. I'm tempted to take Cleveland -6, but I don't know if I trust them that much. I'm just going to settle for the Browns money line. You got Cleveland -6, money line at -245, over under 43.5. What you like, Rob?
Give me Cincinnati in this game. If Give me Cincinnati, Nick. I think the Cleveland Browns put a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield when they drafted him, number 1 overall in 2018. He really hasn't lived up to the hype. He had a great rookie year, but he has the weapons on the outside. He has the backfield counterpart to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Somehow they just can't find to get the job done. I love what I saw from Joe Burrow in week 1 with the 23-yard scamper on the TD run. It was a questionable call late in the game with A.J. Green on that corner out route that was called offensive pass interference. I like what Cincinnati is doing. I just don't trust Baker Mayfield. It's crazy to say that I trust a rookie quarterback in Joe Burrow more than I trust Baker Mayfield. So I like Cincinnati in this game, Nick.
You like them on the money line, or you like them on the spread?
I like them on the money line. Give me Cincinnati on the money line. I think that Cleveland Browns organization is just, it's in shambles right now, and we can probably see some of those top players on the trading block, and we might see, Cleveland tend to tank a little bit later on in the season if this continues to happen with the losses piling up, and maybe, tank for Trevor.
Look, you're only describing history very accurately when it comes to the Browns, but I believe in this Browns team. I think they're wild card contenders. You went up. That's a tough opening matchup against Baltimore. New coaching staff in Cleveland. Would have liked to see a little better game there, but hey, I think maybe it's gonna take a few weeks to get that offense settled in for Cleveland. But if you're gonna be a wild card team, this is a must-win game for the Browns. I don't see the Bengals competing for a wild card. I think they're going to be a nice story with Joe Burrow. I think they're going to be competitive and give teams a hard time this year. But I think this is an absolute must-win. There's no one more on the hot seat than the Browns this week. They need to take care of business at home against the Bengals. So I do like the Browns on the money line.
Okay, I just feel that with the short week, I feel like the Browns might read the press clippings a little bit, and they might come out a little bit shaky. I know they lost a couple players in the secondary against Lamar Jackson that week 1 matchup. But once again, I think Joe Burrow has the weapons around him to score, and I think you're given a team who just got beat down by the Baltimore Ravens in week 1, you spotting them a touchdown. I think that spread is a little bit too high. And that's why I like Cleveland on the money line to fight and get the win.
Cincy on the money line.
Cincy on the money line. Excuse me.
That's good. We might have to make a side bet on this game. But I think Baker Mayfield has been listening to you all week, and I think he's going to be dialed in. I'm ready to see it.
He needs to listen to me all week, because if does, he will be jacked up for this game, this Thursday night game. And I'm pretty sure it's a lot of fantasy owners out there that draft Odell Beckham and looking for him to have a breakout game. And that's what we need to see. We need to see that Baker Mayfield Odell connection in order for, Cleveland moving forward to rack up wins and make a playoff wild card push.
You got to think all that talent on the offensive side of the ball is going to come together at some point for Cleveland. It just doesn't make any sense that it hasn't yet. So we'll see. As you like to say, we shall see. Let's move on to Sunday. The New York Football Giants go to the Chicago Bears. The Bears coming off a big win, comeback, fourth quarter. Mitch Trubisky hit some nice throws late, but he didn't do much before that. Detroit really should have won the game. DeAndre Swift had a drop pass in the end zone, so Chicago kind of got away with one. They come in 1-0. The Giants had a couple bright moments against the Steelers, but they pretty much outplayed. They're pretty much outplayed that Monday Night Football loss against Pittsburgh. Bears and Giants this week, -5. Chicago's favored. Bears -245 on the money line. Totals at 42. I like the over in this game, Rob. I think I like Chicago across the board, and I like the over.
Once again, I think anytime you have Big Ben Roethlisberger to have more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley, I think that's a problem. I know that offensive line is kind of having some continuity issues, especially starting a rookie and Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. But once again, that Bears, they're known for their defense. But I really like the over. I think Saquon gets loose and he scores a couple of touchdowns this week to push that over.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that's a pretty low score. Do you like the Giants? You like the Bears or the Giants on the spread or the money line?
Once again, you said Trubisky had some nice throws, in the second half, especially in that fourth quarter, to kind of have a comeback win. But once again, that game was lost with the drop touchdown pass of DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
Actually, Detroit kind of gave that game away to Chicago. I don't necessarily think that Chicago went out there and won that game, but they did show grit and they did show fight to come out with the W. I think Chicago's the better overall team and they should get the victory. But as far as the money line and spread, I'm definitely going to lay off on this one. But I do like that over. I do like that over a lot, Nick.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm just gonna hang to the over on that. I need to see a little more from Chicago before I feel super confident in that pick. All right, we're going to move down to Dallas. Cowboys hosting the Falcons. Cowboys are -4 on the spread, -220 on the money line, and over-under is at 52.5. A little high on the over-under for me, Rob, but Cowboys are coming in after pretty tough performance against the Rams. Thought they played well. The Falcons got dusted in the second half against the Seahawks last week. I like this Atlanta offense, but they really didn't show me like on paper. I like the offense, I should say. They didn't show me a whole lot last week. I know they scored some late touchdowns to kind of drive up their point total late, but I think the Cowboys, they showed me something on Sunday night. They played pretty well. I think that Rams team is a good bounce back candidate. So I think the Rams are a decent football team this year. I think you're looking at play. I think we were watching two playoff teams on Sunday night. So I'll take the Cowboys at -4 in this one. I don't have a problem picking them on the spread.
Yeah, I know you talked about that over under being really high, but I actually like the over.
Yeah.
And hear me out on this, Nick. I think the Dallas Cowboys and Atlanta Falcons offensive ceiling is very, very high. I mean, especially on paper. I mean, just look at that Cowboys offense. I mean, granted, they only scored 17 points against the Rams, but I do think that Rams front seven is pretty stout, and that kind of, pose problems for the Cowboys. But once again, the Cowboys lose a key component on the defense side of the ball in Van Der Esch. And, I just think the Atlanta Falcons with Matt Ryan at the helm, he can put up points. And I think Dak Prescott has a bounce back game. And I think this turns into a shootout. So I really like the over in this game.
All right. So I took Dallas -4. Robert likes the over at 52.5. Detroit at Green Bay. The Lions devastated after that loss to the Bears last week. Really still don't know how they blew that game late in the game. Bad fourth quarter out of Detroit. Green Bay, on the other hand, just looked to be clicking on all cylinders on offense, put up one of the best offensive performances of the day throughout the league. Packers -6.5, -270 on the money line, over under at 49.5. I need you to talk about this game first before I make a pick either way.
Yeah, I'm all over the Packers on this one, Nick. I think Aaron Rodgers is on a mission. Reports came out that he drunk 4 fingers of tequila after the Jordan Love getting drafted. So I really think he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. He made some throws last week that I don't think many quarterbacks in the history of the game could make. But that's just Aaron Rodgers. He's a bad man, just like his moniker out there. I'm all over Green Bay. I'm very bullish on Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers is on a mission. He's trying to make that MVP case saying, hey, I'm the top quarterback. And I love the continuity that he has with Devontae Adams. He just needs more pieces around him, and Lazard and Scantling stepped up. So I love Aaron Rodgers. I love Aaron Rodgers to destroy that, secondary of Detroit. I know Okuda was banged up, and I'm not sure if he played week 1, but with no Darius Slay, I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers to throw at least 4 more touchdowns. So that puts him at, 8 touchdowns in 2 weeks. That's pretty good numbers.
That's not bad at all. So I'm almost smelling a parlay here.
I think Aaron Rodgers can hit the over by itself. Just like I said, I think he can, throw at least 4 more touchdowns this week. And I do like, Detroit and Matthew Stafford. He's a gunslinger, and I do look for Matthew Stafford to put up points. But I just think Green Bay is just on the mission right now with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, Nick.
So do you like the Packers to cover?
I do like the Packers to cover.
Parlay that with the over?
Parlay that with the over, Nick.
All right, so you got your first parlay going. Packers -6.5 plus the over at 49.5. I like Green Bay. I think Detroit look good in the first half in this game against the Bears last week. I'm going to be a little more cautious than you. I do like Green Bay. Give me the Packers on the money line though. I'm just going to stick to the money line on this one. I think the Lions could definitely score. I'm tempted to jump on that over on that point total too, but I'm going to stay a little more cautious than you and just go Packers money line. Jags, fresh off an upset over the Indianapolis Colts in week 1. Gardner Minshew going 19 of 20, lights out against the Colts. Play the Titans in Tennessee. Titans snuck by the Broncos on Monday Night Football. They make a few more field goals. Maybe the game's not as close, but they made the one that counts. They win the game. Titans coming in -9 points, giving up 9 points to the Jags, -400 on the money line, and the total is at 42.5. That total, that's pretty tempting to jump on for me right there. Jags at +9 too. The Titans are not an offensive juggernaut on this. From what we saw the other day. So I might like the Jags in the over at +9 in the over. I might parlay that.
Yeah, I think with this game, I definitely lean towards the over or under. But one thing that jumps out to me is definitely, taking the Jags with the points. I think one of the strengths that we know the Tennessee Titans has is Derrick Henry. But
Yep.
I think Denver Broncos put out the blueprint of how you stop Derrick Henry. You kind of, you rush up the middle and you let him bounce it to the outside, and then you just kind of make form tackles on him. He's not the best elusive back that we have in the NFL, but he's a power guy. But it just seems like that Denver Broncos defense bottled him up without the likes of Von Miller. So I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're young on both sides of the ball, but one of their young players probably was the best guy on the field in C.J. Henderson last week. So I think the Jags is going to be a feisty team this whole season. I know we talked about them tanking for Trevor Lawrence, and
talked about that.
There you go. I knew you was gonna put that one on me, Nick.
I didn't talk about that.
But yeah, I mean, and one of those reasons we see the likes of Leonard Fournette getting released. We see the trade of Ndakwe to the Vikings. We see the departure of Calais Campbell. So we see all these, high quality profile players leave the organization. So, we would think they're tanking, but Gardner Minshew says otherwise. Him and DJ Chark has a continuity on that offense side of the ball. And hey, James Robinson, our East-West Shrine guy, he had a hell of a game. So I think the Jaguars can keep up with the Tennessee Titans. And I like Jaguars with the points. Give me Jacksonville with the points.
Yeah, it's just a lot of points for that Tennessee offense to cover. I like Tannehill. I like the offense, but they're kind of more of like they lean on that defense. So 9 points in this one, that's a whole lot to give. So are you going to take the over as well with the parlay, or are you just sticking with the points?
I'm just sticking with the points. That's kind of a toss up. I don't know. Maybe Derrick Henry gets angry and rips off, big chunk plays and score a couple touchdowns himself. Tannehill kind of throws a couple touchdowns. It could be a shootout. Who knows? But I definitely like Jacksonville with the points on this one, Nick.
For what it's worth, Jacksonville tends to really struggle at Tennessee. And I know someone's probably out there thinking Jacksonville tends to really struggle in general. But I'd tell you to go back and watch that Colts win. Jags are 1-0, baby. Sorry. Pro Jags. This is a Pro Jaguars podcast. And Robert's a Pro Vikings guy. We'll move on to the Minnesota game next. Minnesota at Indianapolis, 1 p.m. on Fox. The Vikings, after last week's performance, they're going to be the dogs in this one. Colts -3, -150 on the money line. Over-unders at 48.5. I might like that total overall, but this might be tempting to take Vikings in the points in this game. +3. I think I'm going to go Minnesota +3.
Yeah, I don't think that will be a bad pick. Actually, I like Minnesota to win this one outright. I just don't see a Mike Zimmer team going 0-2 to start the season. Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen seemed like they were on the same page. Dalvin Cook, he hit pay dirt. He scored a touchdown. I think one thing that kind of stopped that Vikings team last week was the defense and Aaron Rodgers. We still see Phillip Rivers throwing interceptions, so it seems like he can't shake the interception bug. And one thing you have to look out with the Colts is the loss of Marlon Mack for the season.
Yeah.
You're going to have Jonathan Taylor and Hines in the backfield. I think that Minnesota defense bounces back this week, and I think the offense carries the team to victory. So give me Minnesota on the money line, and I'm going to take the plus money in that one, Nick.
Yeah, can't blame you on that. Can't blame you. I think the Colts pretty surprising for them to start 0-2 though as well. I definitely think that this Colts team they really I said it on our episode on Sunday night, they're going to look back at that Jaguars game and kick themselves for losing it. I think they're a solid team, just a tough matchup with Minnesota. Buffalo at Miami. The Bills looked fantastic in week 1 against the Jets. I'm not sure if that was Buffalo being really good or the Jets being really bad, if I'm being honest. Miami, though, went into New England, and they played right with the Pats. I mean, they're building this program up a little slow. They are the underdog in this game. Buffalo comes in -6, -245 on the money line, and the total's at 41. I love that total in general. In most games, I jump at that. I'm a little nervous about it with these two offenses, though. I think this could turn into a defensive battle, and I'm tempted to take the Dolphins, but this is one of the things my heart's saying Miami, but my brain's saying Buffalo. I'm a little torn. What's your thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, I'm very bullish on Buffalo this season, Nick, and I definitely like the spread with Buffalo in this game. I just think their defense is just one of the best defenses that we have in the NFL. And Josh Allen, even though he struggled to miss a couple throws, it seems like him and Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley have a chemistry in the passing game. So put that with his ability to run the ball and that double head backfield with Zach Moss and Singletary, I think is going to be too much for Miami. And Fitzpatrick is being Fitzpatrick, throwing interceptions at key points in the game. So I definitely like Bills on the spread with this one, Nick.
I'm going to be a little more conservative and go Buffalo money line, but I definitely think this is close. I think this might be a defensive battle. So I do want to stay off the total, even though it's so tempting at 41 to take. I'm going to go Buffalo money line. Let's stick with the AFC East with the Jets. The Jets are hosting the 49ers. San Francisco comes in 7-point favorite, minus 320 on the money line, over under 42.5. Rob, what happened with Lev Bell last Sunday? What happened in that game?
Yeah, so reports was coming out that Le'Veon Bell suffered a tweak in the hamstring. He's been battling the hamstring issue this whole offseason. He kind of suffered a tweak in the first half, and Adam Gase kind of caught wind of it, but decided to put Le'Veon Bell back in the second half, and that's when it kind of really really hurt him. And now he's on the IR and he's going to be out, a couple of weeks. So I know Adam Gase and Le'Veon Bell has had their, bouts in the past, and reports was coming out that the media was getting in the way of two guys kind of like coming to the table and having talks. But I think that's very disheartening if you're a Jets fan, or a member of that organization, that you put one of your star players out there back on the field knowing that he's hurt. So once again, I think the Jets is just in rebuild mode. Sam Darnold didn't look good. And once again, the depth on that Jets team, everyone seems like they're injured. I don't like the Jets the way they're built, and I think the 49ers bounce back. So give me 49ers with the spread in this one, Nick.
I'm picking the exact same thing. San Francisco -7. I like them to cover. I highly worry about the Jets' ability to score. So I think the 49ers have missed some pieces on their offense too, but they have a pretty deep set of players on that team, and I think that Shanahan figures out a way to get them in the end zone a few times. All right, you got the Rams, who looked very good against the Cowboys the other night, against an Eagles team that blew a 17-0 lead at Washington. People are going to be way down on the Eagles, but this is the Rams coming east. I think the Eagles are going to be extra focused in this game. -1.5 Rams favorite are going to be favored in this one, -1.5, -125 on the money line, with the total being at 46. I think I'm going to play the over on this one, Rob. Over 46. This is a pick 'em to me. I mean, it's a 1.5 point spread, so I'm not spitting anything out that is, anything that Vegas isn't seeing, but I like that over. I think the offenses are going to score some points in this game. Give me the over at 46.
Yeah, I know we talk about teams out west coming east, and kind of keeping up and having that juice. But once again, I think the Rams look really, really well week one against the Cowboys, and I think they keep the momentum going. I like the Rams with the points.
You got any breaking news for us, Rob?
No breaking news.
Adam Schefter over there.
That was just some fantasy stuff, which I know one of the number one waiver pickups this week was Malcolm Brown, the running back for the Rams. So moving forward, it's going to be
tie it back.
It's definitely going to be interest of how Sean McVay splits that backfield with Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers. But I do like the two-headed running backfield, especially with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods on the outside. I think the Rams have something cooking, and I think Sean McVay is cooking up something, is getting his mojo back, and I think the Rams is going to get the win on the road against the Eagles.
If you have an NFL Sunday ticket, this would be the game. This would be a game to watch. So you like the Rams on the money line?
I do like the Rams on the money line in this one, Nick.
Okay, Rams money line, and I got the over at 46. Let's move on to the Steelers hosting the Denver Broncos. Pittsburgh, little shaky at times against the Giants, but they end up making some plays. Juju Smith-Schuster certainly welcoming Big Ben back. Do you happen to have a status update on James Conner, Rob?
It seems like he's going to be out of this one. I know reports out there is that he suffered a high sprained ankle, and with the emergence of Benny Snell, would you risk putting James Conner back in at this point of time, especially when Benny Snell seems like he can, handle the load? And not only that, it really seems like Big Ben has hit his groove, and it seems like he's back. Juju Smith-Schuster posted 2 TDs. James Washington gets on the board, the former Biletnikoff Award winner. So I think the Pittsburgh Steelers is clicking on all cylinders on the offense side of the ball, and we know what that defense can do. So I definitely like this Steelers team moving forward. So I like Steelers on the money line, Nick.
Yeah, you got Steelers are -7.5 favorite, -360 on the money line. Over unders at 41.5. You like that total?
I might lay off on that total.
Yeah.
Once again, that Denver offense kind of didn't prove to me what it was capable of, and maybe that was because Cortland Sutton didn't play, and that's kind of one of Drew Lock's favorite targets. Hopefully, Denver gets him back, but if he doesn't, I won't mess with that over under as much. But I just love Pittsburgh on the money line in this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you. I'm tempted to take the Steelers at -7.5, but I feel like Drew Lock can be one of those quarterbacks that kind of can pop off at any given point. But you got to think that Steelers defense is going to keep him relatively contained on Sunday. But I do like the Steelers to win, so I'll go Steelers money line on that as well. Carolina travels to Tampa Bay at 1 p.m. Tom Brady and the Bucks 0-1. I think that people are pretty rough on them this week after a tough matchup in New Orleans. They're a 9-point favorite though, coming into the Carolina game, -420 on the money line, over under at 47.5. Rob, I think the Bucks and the Saints. We walked away from a game in which Tom Brady and Drew Brees played football, talking about how good the defenses looked. So if you're playing that good a defense on both sides, with both teams, and Tom Brady and Drew Brees are your quarterbacks, I think both those teams are going to be around the playoffs pretty late. I like the Bucks in this one. The Panthers had a high-scoring game against the Raiders last week. Don't know how good either team's going to be this year, though, in terms of the defensive side of the ball. I like Teddy Bridgewater, but I'm sorry, I got to go Tampa Bay -9. I think they cover the 9. I think it's no problem.
Yeah, I definitely agree with this one. I think Tom Brady covers that spread easy. I don't know if you recall, but you remember last year's game between the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where the last play ended on a Vernon Hargreaves tackle of Christian McCaffrey. I just don't see that happening this year, and that game being that close. I like Tampa Tom and all the weapons to kind of have that chemistry this week. That they really didn't have last week. And a lot of that was due to the Saints defense. So you tip your hats off to that Saints defense. But I think they get the machine running this week, and it's kind of blowout. So I really like Tampa Bay with the points.
Tampa Bay -9 for you as well. All right. We are going to move out to the desert. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. They took out San Francisco last week in a last-minute play. Man, DeAndre Hopkins, 15 receptions. Unbelievable day for him. What a start in Arizona. They're a 7-point favorite over the Washington football team. -290 on the money line. Over under at 47.5. 7's a little strong for me in this one. I think they're capable of covering it, but I'm going to stay. I think I do like the Cards to win in the desert, though. Give me the Cardinals on the money line.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that one. Give me the Cardinals on the money line. We know Washington came back from 17 down, but I think that was an indictment more so on the Eagles than the Washington football team. The only way that Washington stays in it if they put pressure on Kyler Murray with their front seven. However, I just think Kyler Murray can kill you with his feet and his arms, which he proved last week against San Francisco, which I think is a better defense than the Washington football team. So if he can play like that against the San Francisco defense, I can only imagine how he's going to play against a Washington defense. So give me Cardinals on the money line, Nick.
All right, moving on. SoFi Stadium opened last week with the Rams hosting the Cowboys. The Chargers take their turn this week, and they open with the Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs come in as a 9-point favorite, -440. Over-unders at 47.5. The Chiefs look like an unstoppable force. So why do I want to pick? Why is something in me telling me to take the Chargers at +9?
I don't know, Nick. I don't know what's inside of you telling you to take the Chargers with the points. Once again, we saw the Chargers struggle last week with a rookie quarterback in Joe Burrow, and you're telling me you really want to take the Chargers with the points with the $500 million man and Pat Mahomes? What are you thinking right now, Nick?
I just
Give
got a
me.
gut feeling. I got a gut feeling. I think that defensive line. I think they might have looked past the Bengals. They might have looked past them to this game, opening a new stadium with Pat Mahomes coming. Week one for everyone. Maybe they're a little sleepwalking through that game. I think the Chargers are better than what we saw last week, though.
I think they are, but once again, you're saying opening a new stadium, but they're opening a new stadium with no fans. So I think
That's
that's one
still
thing.
you're still. It's a new stadium in LA. That thing looks sweet. Even when I thought that stadium looked great, even empty.
It looked exceptionally great when empty. And I can just only imagine when the fans come back, they're definitely going to enjoy it out there in that new SoFi Stadium. But once again, I just think, Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid is just on a mission again. They want to, win back-to-back Super Bowls. And for them to win a Super Bowl in a COVID year, I know we're saying that like, it's an asterisk mark by it, but come on, man. Just the Kansas City Chiefs is a well-oiled machine, and I just think they rout the Chargers in this one. I'm all over the Chiefs.
So you like them -9? You like them on the?
I like the Chiefs to cover the spread.
All right. I'll let you make fun of me next week, but I'm gonna listen to the voice in my head. I'm gonna be a little contrarian here. I'm gonna take the Chargers at +9. I think they're going to be very zoned in for this game after a trip to Cincinnati that might have not got their blood going quite like a home game against the Chiefs. First game in the new stadium, I think they got something to prove. I think the Chargers are the next contender in the AFC West. They're going to be the biggest contender to the Chiefs in the AFC West on their home turf, like those pass rushers to get after Pat Mahomes a bit. And I think that they're going to keep that Chiefs offense. When I say keep the Chiefs offense down, I mean like maybe keep them under 30. Maybe keep them under 30, but +9, let's roll with it. Let's go Chargers. Bolt up. All right. Baltimore at Houston, another 4 o'clock game. Ravens, 7-point favorite, -330 on the money line. Over-unders at 51.5. I like Baltimore on the money line. I'm a little nervous about the spread at 7, though.
Yeah. Once again, I just love seeing this quarterback matchup between Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson. We saw this matchup when they were in college in their collegiate career, and it went down to the wire. Unfortunately, Deshaun Watson doesn't have the weapons that he had in Clemson, especially with DeAndre Hopkins getting traded out to Arizona. I just see the same thing that we saw in Week 1 from the Houston Texans. Deshaun Watson kind of running for his life, receivers not really getting open, and that Baltimore Ravens defense is a much better defense than the Kansas City Chiefs defense. So I could just see Lamar Jackson padding his stats and adding to his MVP conversation this year, and I just see the Ravens rolling with this one. Give me Ravens with the points.
Raven with the points. All right, I got Baltimore money line. You'll take Ravens at -7. All right, for the night game, you got New England traveling out to Seattle. Man, this would have been a fun game to watch with fans. Patriots don't make too many trips out to Seattle. But Cam Newton, like we talked about, they used him very effectively last week. A lot of running, very physical. I don't know if Newton can do that week in and week out, but we saw the Patriots are going to run the ball. I think the score stays pretty low in this one. The Seahawks are a 4-point favorite, -200 on the money line. The over-unders at 45. I think I'll take the under at 45 in this game and really stay off of betting between them because I still am waiting to kind of see what New England is exactly. So I don't want to pick the game specifically. I'm going to take the under at 45.
Yeah, I think that might be the safest bet to take if you're gonna lay some money on this game, Nick. But I think one of the key matchups in this game is Cam Newton versus Jamal Adams. If somehow that Belichick's offense with Josh Daniels and Cam Newton can make Jamal Adams play single high safety, I think last week we saw Cam Newton run the ball 15 times. I think this week you might see Cam Newton throw the ball, 20 plus times. And that might be the difference of the game. However, I just think Russell Wilson is just too much for any team to handle. I think Russell Wilson is just on the same mission as Aaron Rodgers. I think, the Russell Wilsons and the Aaron Rodgers and the Big Ben is kind of tired of hearing about the new quarterbacks that's taken over and Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Pat Mahomes. I think the older quarterbacks have something to say, and I think Russell Wilson is going to prove that this week again, going against that Patriots defense, and especially going against one of the best corners in the league in Stephon Gilmore. So I like the Seahawks to win this one. But I really, from a bet perspective, I don't like any of the betting lines, but I do think Seattle pulls it out in the end.
So you would lay off this game entirely? You don't even like the point total?
Yeah, I just this once, just like you said, like you're still trying to figure out what is this New England team, what is going to be with Cam Newton at quarterback and Belichick coaching Cam, and all the opt outs that the Patriots team had on the defense side of the ball. So me personally, I just like Russell Wilson as a quarterback to get the win. But one thing that I don't know is what this Patriots team is going to look like. So I definitely will lay off this game, but
If you had to pick one, if for the degenerates that have to pick one, you're picking the under at 45.
I think I'm gonna go over.
You're gonna go over, okay?
Yeah, just like you said earlier about being a contrarian.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna be a contrarian and go over on this one. I think Russell Wilson is just like I said. He's on a mission. He's gonna stake his claim to be an MVP candidate this year. He's never gotten a vote. Like, how crazy is that? Russell Wilson has never gotten a vote to be an MVP. Like, not even a vote. Like,
That's
he's
nuts.
never won an MVP trophy, but he's never gotten a vote. So I think he changes that this year. And if I had to pick, I'd go with Seattle and Russell Wilson.
All right, so you take. We'll put you down for the over. We'll take the conservative route for you. All right, so you got the Saints traveling out to Las Vegas. Still weird. The Las Vegas Raiders are going to open up their new building in Allegiant Stadium. Man, you got the NFL opening stadiums in Las Vegas and Los Angeles for 3 different franchises this year. What a year for a worldwide pandemic for the NFL. It's just absolutely terrible timing with these stadiums. Obviously not the most important thing. Just a little thought. That's all. The Saints -6 favored in this one, -260. Over-unders at 49.5. I like the Saints on the money line here. I might like them to cover. I'm actually going to jump up and say the Saints at -6. I like that. The Raiders put up some points in Carolina last week, but they're about to step up to a whole different level. Michael Thomas is out, though. Michael Thomas is out for the Saints. Injured, had his ankle rolled up on while blocking. So even though Thomas is out, I think the Saints have enough weapons. They got a great defense. I'm going to take the Saints at -6.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to piggyback off that pick that that the Saints is going to cover. Give me the -6. I think Sean Payton is just, he's an offensive guru, and I think that Saints offense is a well-oiled machine. We seen the type of stuff that Alvin Kamara can do when healthy. Once again, Michael Thomas is not playing, but we might see a little bit more of Taysom Hill. Sean Payton has multiple weapons on that offense side of the ball to get the job done. Yep. And once again, I think, Derek Carr has to make that next step. Josh Jacobs had a great game week 1. But once again, one thing that they're lacking is the offensive passing down the field. So Derek Carr has to step up. But once again, we saw Marshawn Lattimore put the clamps on Mike Evans in week 1. I just think that Saints defense is for real this year, and they're definitely a big contender to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, great performance last week against Tampa Bay. Raiders opening a new building. Tough matchup to open a new building. But got to think that Got to think that the Saints are going to be a pretty easy winner in this one. Don't see them getting challenged too hard in this one. That's it for our NFL segment this week. We're going to cut to the Did You Know? But before we do, I'd like to say we'll post all these picks on our website, American Football Stories. Please visit, check it out. We also have a Twitter account at American FB Story. please give us a follow and be sure to like and retweet our picks. Robert, you got anything else to add before we jump to the Did You Know?
Nothing else, Nick. Let's just dive head first into Did You Know?
All right, let's go. It's on you. You got to ask me for this episode.
Yeah. So, with that being said, Nick, I know we talked earlier about the Big Ten breaking news returning and to Phil. So one of my Did You Know questions for this episode is surrounding the Big Ten. You might get it fairly easy, but more so, we want to reach out to the audience and have our audience see if they know it. So today's Did You Know once again is get around the Heisman Trophy. This one should be pretty easy for you, Nick, but I'm going to ask anyway. So, what is the only conference that has a two-time Heisman Trophy winner? From what school and what position did he play?
American Football Stories is brought to you by CoachMate. CoachMate offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game today with CoachMate.
Yeah, back from paying the bills, Nick. I really wanted to gear this Did You Know segment around, the Big Ten breaking news that they will be returning to the field to play. I'm excited for the players. I'm excited for the fans, and I'm definitely excited for the parents who protested this and got some action taken. But let's just go with the Did You Know question. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask you, Nick, what is the only conference that has a two-time Heisman Trophy winner? From what school and what position did he play?
Robert, I was born in the state of Ohio. My mother went to Ohio State. I learned who my parents were growing up. First thing I learned who my parents were. Second thing I learned who Woody Hayes was. And the third thing I learned was that Archie Griffin, the greatest running back of all time out of Ohio State, won 2 Heisman trophies in the 70s. It's one of the things they teach you that as a child. They teach you that one of the first things before you know anything. You know that Archie Griffin won 2 Heisman Trophy two-time Heisman Trophy winner, and the only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner out of the Ohio State University.
And that is an amazing feat. The only two-time Heisman Trophy winner out of the Big Ten, Archie Griffin, at the running back position. And one thing that I would just like to ask, Nick, I know the Big Ten is coming back. Do you see Justin Fields bringing another piece of hardware to, the Ohio State University this year?
He's certainly capable. He's got to make the plays. He's going to be the star on that offense. They definitely have the weapons to do it. You'd like to see. I wonder how much the lack of preseason has had. What I also want to know, what have these teams? Have they been practicing? Like what have they been doing the last few weeks? I don't fully know. I'm going to look into that. I'm sure we're going to get plenty of stories on that in the next couple of weeks. But what's it been like around football facilities since the Big Ten shut down the season? What's that gap been like?
I think we're definitely going to dive in on that, and we're going to go in depth on that in our next episode. But as a fan, I'm just excited the Big Ten is back. As a collegiate football fan, I'm excited that we can definitely have a college football playoff moving forward, and it wouldn't be the same without Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State competing to be in the playoffs. So I'm very excited to hear this news that the Big Ten is back and is willing to play and have a season.
I'm pumped too, and it's also amazing that the Pac-12 is still not playing and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, that is very glaring. I know it was a report that came out pretty recently that a couple players from the USC team kind of reach out to the governor of California to say, hey, we need to play. We need the restrictions to be limited so we can have practice right now. So I think that's one thing that the Pac-12 is dealing with more so than any other conference. But just like you said, we're definitely going to dive in more of this on the next episode. So one thing I would just like to do is just kind of, thank our audience for listening and kind of read us out.
Go for it.
So once again, thanks for listening to American Football Stories. We are powered by Coach Paint. Beef up your scouting clips with Coach Paint, and please follow us on YouTube, Twitter, and rate us 5 stars and tune in to next week's episode.